Hey guys, we're back at it here on day 16. We are on the notes from day 15. All right, so your equilibrium notes, get that opened up. We're going to be on the back side towards the bottom. So obviously on day 15, we got you to about right here. We're going to write down and talk about these prices, talk about the government setting prices sometimes and some of the challenges that faces, and go from there. Okay, so first things first, you've got a daily blog here. Go ahead, pause it, write something down. You're writing coming up with a scenario for each of these. Okay, so again, you have basically 8 things you've got to write. What is a scenario for each of those of an increase, decrease in demand, increase, decrease in supply? Do that quick if you haven't done so. Pause it. I'm gonna go with the footballs one. So what happens? What can we do to increase our demand for footballs? Let's just say, and it can be anything, it doesn't have to be real life. Let's just say that a new helmet was created that has eliminated the possibility of getting a concussion. So more kids are willing to play football. Their parents are willing to let them play, and now we have to buy them football. So the game is deemed safer. What's that do for our demand for footballs? It increases. Let's decrease our demand for footballs. The Big Ten has decided not to play during COVID. They do not need to buy any new footballs. That is going to decrease our demand for footballs. Let's see on the supply side. Let's increase our supply first. Many more cows are being killed, so we are able to, for food, and now they have more skin, which means more leather. Leather is cheaper. We have an increase in supply of footballs. If we want to decrease our supply of footballs, let's say that, the price of leather has gone up due to human interaction in terms of like animal protection groups. So animal protection groups have more influence, meaning that it's harder to kill a cow to get the leather for a football, which would decrease the supply of footballs. So anyway, hopefully you get something along those lines. Write them in your daily blogs. Do that for both football and shovels, as I gave you that example. All right, so what do these prices do for us? Well, that's pretty straightforward. We're not going to spend tons of time talking about these, but write them down just so we can get them on paper. They're going to give us some general level of information, right? It's going to tell us especially what's in high demand, especially if prices are increasing or decreasing. It tells us what people value, right? So that gives us some general information. In a capitalist economy similar to ours, it's going to create incentives for us to work, right? We want to have nice things someday. We want to be able to, whether it's a bigger house or a nicer car or vacations, right? It creates incentives for us to be productive, okay, to work and produce things. They allow us to respond to changing conditions. And so, if we have a natural disaster that destroys a certain crop in a certain area of the country, we can raise the price on that stuff. If you remember, there was a situation about 6 months ago. We had romaine lettuce have like salmonella in it. And for a while, romaine lettuce was not available. It wasn't necessarily a life-changing thing. But if you paid attention, the first romaine lettuce that was available for like 2 weeks in the grocery store was like $4 a pound. Usually it's $1 a pound, $1.50 a pound. And so the people that really wanted romaine lettuce, they were able to still buy it, but it was super expensive because of that salmonella outbreak. And at the end of the day, again, if we can change prices, we figure out who wants them the most, and who is willing to pay for those things. So it's extremely efficient, much more efficient than what the government does in terms of trying to distribute things equally in command economies. Now, the government is also, we've got another example here. Go ahead and take a shot at the second daily blog. Come up with an example of the black market. And also the second one, imagine that the government limited how much gasoline you could buy in a day. Would that be a good thing? Would that be a bad thing? What do you think about that? So go ahead and get that typed in. Pause it if you need to. We'll talk about black market here in a second. We'll talk about what happens with that gasoline here in a second also. Okay, so sometimes the government implements what are called price controls. And so we're down here now on your notes. Thought I had them opened. We're down here on your notes at the very bottom. You got price ceilings and price floors. Notice I wrote in there C shortages graph and C surpluses graph. They're on the front side. You can also rewrite them in there too. It won't hurt you to do that. But either way, okay? So a price ceiling, all right, this is going to be a maximum price the government sets on something. Not really common in our day-to-day life here in Elkhart, Indiana, okay? But it is common in New York City. And in New York City, they have set what they refer to as rent control. So there's a maximum amount of money a landlord can charge their tenant to live there, and it kind of adjusts based on how many years you live there and things like that. I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with the exact policy, but they do set a maximum price that people have to pay. Now, this creates a challenge in the sense that if we set a maximum price, all right, let's just say it's right here, okay, we have the situation, and we talked about it with our shortages, is that now more people can afford to buy housing. Here's our quantity demanded. Okay, it's a big number compared to our how much we're able to supply. Our quantity supplied is down there. Just like with our shortage graph, our quantity supplied is less than our quantity demanded. Now everybody can afford, or many more people can afford to live there. And so it creates this shortage of goods. Okay, and now people have to wait a long time to be able to move in some cases in New York City when they're paying rent. Now, on the flip side, we also have what are referred to as price floors. Those are going to be minimum prices. The best example of that is minimum wage. So I don't know if the 725 minimum wage is a good example, but if we were to make the minimum wage, let's say like 25 bucks an hour. Okay, some of you guys probably are in the boat where you're like, well, I could go to work, but I can't make necessarily too much money, so I'm going to focus on school or sports instead. But if we made it 25 bucks an hour, some people are going to change their mind. So our quantity supplied is going to be over here. Here's our quantity demanded, right? And if you remember back from the other day, this is going to create a surplus of labor, okay? So now we have more people that want to work rather than the amount of people that are willing to be hired, right? So your demand line is how many people can I hire in terms of paying for labor, where your supply line is how many people are willing to work for that. All right, and so when we limit some of the things that the economy may not produce, so whether that's an illegal product with a black market, in World War II, the government rationed things out, okay, and tried to make some things a little bit more efficient. The reason they did that was because the war effort, the military needed to buy all these things, rubber tires as an example. Okay, and so having to buy those, rather than say, okay, well, the government can pay whatever they want and nobody will get them, they say, hey, listen, we're going to try to keep them as cheap as possible, so we're going to limit the demand for those based on certain laws. Black markets occur when illegal activity takes place. Okay, so this is like something against the law. Obviously, illegal drugs are a very large black market, meaning that obviously there's a lot of interaction between buyers and sellers in that particular market. It doesn't have to necessarily be some extraordinary illegal drug to be in the black market. There's a black market for a lot of things. There's a black market for human organs. The process of becoming not a donor but a receiver of an organ is I've got to wait on a list. Well, If I don't want to wait on that list and I have enough money to pay for this particular activity or go to a different country, I may be willing to do that. Going back to our original question with the gasoline. Um, the gasoline, what ends up happening is if you limit how much gasoline people can buy, well, the problem becomes is I need 5 gallons of gas, hypothetically. My neighbor needs 1 gallon of gas. Well, this per day, obviously making numbers up. So the thing that eventually occurs is, well, the neighbor is going to buy his 2 gallons of gas because he's limited how much he can buy. I'm going to be forced to buy gasoline on a black market because I have to get to work and I have to buy that particular product to get there. And so sometimes black markets occur even if what is being bought isn't necessarily illegal. It's just anywhere there's going to be a demand for something, people are going to be able to figure out a way to supply it. Okay. Those are my notes I've got for you. Okay. I'm going to get to here shortly the assignment. Give me a quick second. Okay, so for your assignment for day 16, okay, now keep in mind all these assignments are due the day of the exam. And so right now the day of the exam is going to be probably towards the end of next week. I'll keep you updated on that. But so there's not quite as much to work on as it looks like. But I did want to get some of these in front of you in case you were able to get things started. So your first one, you've got to work on these Google Forms. This should look familiar. Now, here is the catch on these Google Forms assignments. All right. Now, the first 3, all right, that were 8 questions each, they were simply just practice. Okay. You can go back and look at those. I would. If you didn't do them and look at them real close, I would go back and look at those. You can take them a second time. Okay. You can also, and this is important, so here's your questions here. Okay. As you open that, you can also take this one twice. And so what I will do when you take this assignment, okay, and do this assignment, you can go through it once. It's going to show you which ones you missed. You probably want to write down which ones you got right in the answers and which ones you got wrong in the answers. You can take it a second time. So you've got 2 guesses for each question. I'm going to take your higher score. Okay, so make sure that you take advantage of that. Okay. If you have questions, make sure you see me. I am planning on making another help video with going over some of the answers on the other practice problems. So make sure that you take advantage of watching that if you need to. Email is available. I'm in the process of hopefully by early next week being able to Google Meet with some people as we work on this project that's going to be introduced on Thursday, okay, day 17, with another assignment and kind of moving forward from there. Okay, so don't hesitate to email me. Don't hesitate to obviously, hassle me if you're having some trouble getting some stuff the way that you want it. Okay, seems like a lot of work today, but it is. Like I said, these are basically you're going to get an assignment tomorrow. These 3 reading assignments are due the day of the exam, and so pay attention to that. They're easy assignments. They have to do with what we just talked about the last 2 days. But it's going to give you some good points. These are easy. These are easy points. These are a little bit tougher points, right? Because these are ones you have to get right. These are just filling in blanks, sharing your opinion a little bit. So take advantage of those. All right, as we're moving forward, and we'll talk soon.